Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Welcome to episode 247 of Martha Runs the World. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you are having an excellent week. I am. And I had it. Wow, what a weekend. What a great weekend. It was so much fun. I'll tell you about it after my guest. And I have a wonderful guest this week. I know you're going to really enjoy hearing from her. She's amazing. Dr. Cindy Howard, board-certified chiropractor, nutritionist. She's been a dancer, a speaker, runner, and power lifter. She does so much. But she's also faced immense adversities and overcame them, which she talks about today. She's written a book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness in the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. I love that title. I haven't read it yet because it's just been released when this episode comes out, but I will read it. I love that title, and I really enjoyed speaking with her. So here is Dr. Cindy Howard. Will you welcome to the program Dr. Cindy Howard? And we're going to talk all about everything she does. And she does a ton of stuff. Hi, doctor. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm doing great. Doing fabulous. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I'm going to start right at the meat of the subject. Sometimes I work into it, and sometimes I just go right to the heart. When did you realize you were at rock bottom?
Oh, yeah. So I think it was the day I self-diagnosed myself with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And not that that always has to be your rock bottom, but it was coupled with my mother was walking through what they labeled terminal cancer, which as it turns out it was. The dog had died of pancreatic cancer. I was in the middle of a horrible, horrible divorce. And I just had the sob story that you could have assumed was going to head me down the rabbit hole of being a true victim. And that's where I had to make a decision to, not keep going and turn myself around and start summoning the hill.
Well, it's certainly easy to just stay in that victim mode, isn't it?
It is easy, but it's also to a certain degree, I think, uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good to sit there.
No, it really doesn't, especially if you're the type of person who is an active person and likes, or proactive and likes to do things. It's not a fun place. I mean, it is for a little while because everybody does it, but it doesn't feel good after a while, I don't think.
No, I think, taking a few minutes to play that role sometimes can be therapeutic, yell, scream, cry, throw something, as long as it's not at anybody, and let that out from a cleansing sort of mentality. But to live in that 24/7, I think, is very detrimental.
Yeah, it certainly is. You'll do a lot more damage than good if you wallow in that place too long. So you decided, I think, was that when you decided to write your book, or when did you decide to do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was always very big on journaling throughout my whole life. There are periods of times where it just feels good to write. It's a great place to vent and to learn and grow. And I decided through the entire experience to keep a journal, never really with the intent that it was going to be a memoir. But when I had finished walking through this journey, I looked back and I read some of the entries and I thought, wow, there really is some great stuff in here. There's some funny things and there's some learning, teaching moments in there. And I thought, as cliche as it sounds, if I put this into an actual published book and there's one sentence, one chapter, one moment that somebody gets something from it, then it makes sense and it's worth it.
Yeah, I really think so. I love the title, Positively Altered, Happiness in the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. How did you come up with that?
Well, I laugh because it was actually probably one of the most painful parts of the entire process. We had over 200 working titles at one point that we were going back and forth with. And when my branding company, actually the gentleman, Johan, who was working with me on branding, asked me to fill out this massive questionnaire for him, one of my answers included the fact that I hoped what people would get out of this was that they were positively altered. And it was one of those light bulb moments where those two words just shined above everything else. And the finding happiness at the bottom of the chemo bag was the tagline that needed to have a little humor in it. So that when you pick up the book, you realize this is not just another book of somebody who walked through cancer and how they did it medically. There is actually a lot of laughter in the story. And I wanted people to know that it's almost a little comedy versus more medical.
Oh, that's wonderful. See, that's a really nice way to look at it with in a positive attitude, but also with laughter, because it always makes things a little easier. I mean, we know that it's not an easy time. And we know that it's going to be painful and it's a hard time. But if you can look at it in that kind of light, it makes things just a little easier to deal with, I think.
It does. And I learned how to laugh at myself, although I was always probably pretty good at that. But it's to laugh at myself in the situations and to find the joy in the adversity. And it is what gets us through, I believe, a lot of times is that positive mental, or the jokes. And most of the jokes were really about myself, not about anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. If we can't make fun of ourselves, what can we make fun of, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, when you in your practice, in your chiropractic practice, who is your typical patient?
Oh, I'm not sure I have a typical, but what I do love and what I tend to graduate to, or gravitate to, I should say, is really the difficult patient. So it's crazy word, fun for me to help patients, especially those that have seen numerous doctors that have never gotten answers, those that are walking down the path of autoimmune disease. That seems to be a pretty complicated one for a lot of people, in order to really dig deep and find some of the underlying causes rather than just another medication to throw. So I see young to elderly, those that are just tired of being tired of being sick without answers.
Now, how can a chiropractor help runners?
Well, it's interesting. There's different perspectives. So if you think about chiropractic in and of the sense of, we get labeled in this pigeonhole, if you will, of taking care of musculoskeletal problems, right? So back pain, knee pain, elbow pain, foot pain. And I think we probably just described the runner, right, who does it pretty consistently and for a long period of time. There's probably not too many out there that haven't had some sort of an experience with musculoskeletal pain, right, on some level, whether it's an acute condition or a chronic condition. So when we really evaluate how the body works biomechanically, looking from feet all the way up to head and vice versa down, we can really assess well how to fix, repair, alter the biomechanics, eliminate pain, work through physical therapy techniques in order to aid them. What's really unique about what I do, being board certified in internal medicine and nutrition, is we also dive in and start to look at the chemical or the physiological components of the human body. So on a nutritional level, do we get injured or do we not heal well because we're not getting proper nutrients in our diet, or we're not absorbing or utilizing those nutrients in our diet? Are hormones in the way? Is gut function in the way? And my laundry list goes on and on. But when you combine those two things, both the metabolic and the physical aspect, now we take the runner that wants to go longer, that wants to heal faster, that wants to shave a second off their PR, we can make a pretty profound difference.
Wow, that's profound, really, if you think about it. What should we, if we want to seek out one, what should we look at when we go to visit one for the first time? What should we look at in a chiropractor?
Yeah, I think there's a couple main components. One is, on the onset, do they listen? Do they take the time to sit and really hear you and what your concerns are? Sometimes our concerns are a little bit different depending on what we know we're looking for, but we always need to uncover the underlying need of our clients and meet those needs. So one is being heard. Two is making sure that doctor you've sought out explains to you really how they're going to meet your need, right? How they're going to overcome that challenge. I think that's super important. Making sure you resonate with them, right? There's an energy exchange that goes on between humans in general, but certainly patient to doctor, making sure you feel comfortable in the office and that you've made the right decision, that is the person for you. And then I also think communication is key, right? It's that piece that a lot of physicians are missing with their patients, of communicating in a way that the patient understands, using simple terms a lot of times versus trying to impress and being super complex. And then the communication piece back of the patient being able to say, this helped, this didn't help, here's what's going on, so that as a team, you really can overcome that objective to getting well.
That's really terrific. Very good advice. What are some basic habits that people can do to keep from visiting you?
Oh, boy. I don't know. I want to stay in business.
I know. Sorry.
I'm
Sorry.
I'm going to have no work to go to.
Okay.
No. I'm happy to answer those questions. But I think they're kind of the simple ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stay hydrated. Like the body needs water. It doesn't need any other fluid. We've got to make sure we're getting adequate water.
Right.
From a food standpoint, I love to talk about food versus manufactured product.
Yeah.
If you can pull it off a vine, pull it off a tree, grow it in the ground, slaughter it, fish for it, it's food.
Right.
If it sits in a box with a bunch of things on the label that you don't understand, that has an expiration date 2 years from now, it's manufactured product. So getting more to a whole food type diet, right? Essential. Exercise. I always say now, for runners, obviously they're going to love running, but even if it's finding something else to supplement that, or for your audience members that are not runners, find something, right? Some form of exercise to keep you active. Sleep, super important. We've got to get adequate rest. And then here's the big one, right? We've got to figure out how to manage our stress level. Yeah. This whole world has gone a little insane, if I might use that word. And our stress levels are getting higher and higher. Our mental health is being affected. So finding those tools, whether it's deep breathing, dancing in your kitchen, running around the block, coloring in a coloring book, again, don't really care what the stress release is, but finding something that works for you to help manage those stress. So those simple things, and they're simple, and yet for a lot of us, sometimes difficult to accomplish. But incorporating all of those different aspects in your life is just going to make everything seem a little bit smoother and a little bit easier.
It's true. It's stress is such a big. It's the biggest killer in the country. It really is. It destroys everything, and yeah, you have to keep it under control. Now you started as a modern dancer, right? How did you go from dancer to power lifter?
Yeah. So when I was real little, I started dancing, and that was my dream. My dream was to be in New York and choreograph and on Broadway, and, and then starve to death, clearly, because most dancers in New York, I think, are starving, which fits you into the leotard well, but not real good from a health perspective. Right. So it was interesting. When I went to college, I started at Arizona State. I was a dance major, and I was very homesick. I wanted to come closer to home. I live in Chicago, and I transferred to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And there I made the decision to minor in dance rather than major, and major in exercise physiology or exercise science. And I was a gym rat at that time too. I loved going to the gym, working out 7 days a week. And I wound up meeting a bunch of guys, of course, young girl, right? Gets enamored by a bunch of men who were a little bit older than she was, who were power lifters. That's what they did. And I got super excited by the idea of the competition and the ability to almost beat myself in competition as well by being able to lift more, and started lifting with them and got myself entered into some competitions and caught the bug. It's been a few years doing it. It was really fun.
Wow. Yeah, it is kind of fun to lift. I mean, I don't do it as much as I used to, but it is fun. So now you somehow with the sports, that led you to become a chiropractor. How did that come about?
So that's kind of an interesting twist of fate as well. When I was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and I had graduated with this degree in exercise physiology, I thought, okay, what's next? And I decided I wanted to go to physical therapy school. Well, this is, couple plus decades ago. And it was very, very competitive. I actually couldn't get in. I didn't have the grades. I was, I would tell you probably pretty bright, but couldn't transfer that into A's on the report card. So as a result, I didn't get accepted into any of the programs and was a little bummed. So I wound up graduating and went into sales. My father said, hey, go into sales. You'll be great at it. You'll make a lot of money. It's a great career. And I went into sales and I put on the high heels and the short skirt and walked into office buildings that said no solicitation and did that for a couple years and thought, well, I'm making a lot of money, but there's no passion. There's no true joy in what I'm doing. So I was talking to a few people still in the, in the health field. And one guy actually said to me once, he goes, why would you want to go to physical therapy school and be told what to do by the doctors when you can go to chiropractic school and tell them what to do? And I love the idea of telling people what to do. And I had one small chiropractic experience in college after a car accident and thought, there's something to this. I'm going to go check this out. So I applied to what is now National University of Health Sciences. It was National College of Chiropractic again a few decades ago. And they had accepted me and I never looked back. I enrolled and thought, this is really cool. I'm going to take this path and got my doctorate in chiropractic. And it's been 25 amazing years.
Cool. That is very, very cool. Now, you diagnosed yourself with Hodgkin's lymphoma. What are the symptoms of that? And how did you realize that you had it?
I did. It's interesting as a physician, we tend to become a little bit of a hypochondriac at times because we have so much knowledge that, the minute something is weird, we go down that rabbit hole of I'm dying of something. For me, it was actually a little slow because I try really hard not to run down that rabbit hole. So the very first thing that I noticed was I had a lymph node sticking out of my neck. It was protruding out of my neck. And I thought, this is kind of weird. I wonder if I'm coming down with something. Sometimes those will pop when you're fighting an infection. And I waited a little while and a week went by and I thought, this is really strange. I'm not sick. Nothing is going on. I actually feel okay. And then before you knew it, I had 2 of them that popped out. And again, I thought this was, it was a little strange. Yeah. So I had sent myself for an x-ray. They confirmed that there were the 2 lymph nodes there. And I ran a bunch of blood work on myself like I do in my office. And I got a little nervous because it looked pretty bad. And I run blood work on myself annually normally, which I always recommend from a preventative standpoint. You want to, watch to see if there's trends to go the wrong direction, not find out you're in the wrong direction. And there were a lot of markers that were drastically off that I just knew were not good. So I sent myself for a CT scan of the chest and the neck. And as I joke, I lit up like a Christmas tree. There were lesions all over on the left side. So I sent myself for a biopsy of the lymph node, which is diagnostic, and that's where we got the diagnosis of Hodgkin's lymphoma. If I look back, though, it's very interesting. And, retrospectively, health is always very interesting. There were a couple signs that I don't know that I ignored, but I don't know that I paid attention to in the right direction. And 2 were very interesting. So one was years ago, whenever I would have any sort of alcoholic drink, and I've never been a big drinker, I mean, a couple sips and I'm good to go kind of thing. Whenever I would have a sip of alcohol, though, I would get this excruciating pain from the back of my head down like into my shoulder blade. And sometimes when you have right shoulder pain, it relates to gallbladder issues. And sometimes when the gallbladder doesn't work real well with alcohol, it can cause some pain. So I thought, this is really weird and didn't think a whole lot of it, but just stopped drinking because it didn't feel good. Years later, but actually about a year before my diagnosis, I had woke up one night. I was at a conference in Washington, D.C., and I had woke up with bloody feet. And they were bloody from me scratching in my sleep so deep from an itch that I had broken the skin.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep. And the itching traveled. It was on my feet, kind of my legs, my arms a little bit. And because I do a lot of sensitivity and allergy type testing, I thought, oh boy, I've got to be eating something that's just triggering an allergic type response that I'm itching. So I ran some allergy and sensitivity testing on myself. I cut out a few things. I actually thought it could have even been pesticides that I had been exposed to. And it got a lot better, but not totally better. Anyway, you come to realize those 2 things are actually signs of Hodgkin's lymphoma that then manifested years later. So I really believe that I had been working on it for a period of time. I don't believe you just wake up one day with cancer. I think it's over time, and then eventually you're able to diagnose what's going on in the body. But tracing it back, it was actually very interesting. And I'm not so sure that I would have found it back then anyway, because my blood work had always looked good up until that current point.
Wow.
When I noticed the lymph nodes.
What type of cancer exactly is that? Because I'm not familiar with it.
So Hodgkin's falls into the category of a blood cancer. So it attacks the blood cells. Certain forms of lymphoma can also attack the bone marrow. In my case, it was mostly blood. Luckily enough, it didn't affect any other organs, which was, fabulous.
So how
But
did you?
sometimes, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No, I
please.
was going to say sometimes it's actually hard too, because when you have, when you have a lesion in a certain place, the location, and it's a little easier to target treatment. When it's in the blood, and there's lesions all over the body, sometimes that can pose, its own interesting set of challenges.
I can imagine because the blood everywhere in the body. So
True.
yeah. So how do you uh, stop that, or how do you, I don't know, cures, or how do you get into remission from that?
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Hodgkin's lymphoma is considered curable at that 5-year mark, which I'm grateful for.
Yes.
So it was a lot of work. Interestingly enough, my first thought was, oh, I got to book a plane ticket to Germany or Mexico and get out of this country. I practicing the way I do in natural health. I'm not always a huge fan of some of the allopathic treatments that are out there, and not bashing them. There's a time and a place for all of them, but it wasn't really my mantra, if you will, with the way I practice. And I had spoken to a very good friend of mine who said, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay in this country. You're going to get chemotherapy and you're going to kick the crap out of this thing.
Yeah.
You have 3 little kids that need you, and, you need to stay. So after some homework, I did decide to go the chemotherapy route, but I also made a really big decision that while they, as I kind of joke, kill me to keep me alive, because chemo is a form of poison, right? It's a chemical that's not great. I was going to clean up the mess. So I did opt for chemotherapy. I was doing very high doses of IV vitamin C the day before, the day of, the day after, and in between. I put myself on a very strict food regimen, very clean eating, as perfect as you possibly can be in today's world. And I was popping a lot of supplements. I did a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrition that way as well to support myself, which is what I do in practice. And I got through the treatment beautifully. I missed 1 day of work through the entire treatment due to something else. So it was, you wouldn't have known I was walking through it if I didn't tell you.
That's really good.
Great experience that way.
Well, I'm glad you decided to do that. That's really good, because a lot of people, I mean, it's not great, but it's better than, because a lot of people have died deciding not to do that. True. And to try to go the natural way. And that's not always the best way either.
It's not. I think there are many paths to get there. And I think there's a couple really important things to that. One is you've got to build the team, right? You've got to find the people who do medicine in a way that resonates with you, that you trust, and that you feel good about. And then really you do need to make your decisions, because sometimes we're right and sometimes we're wrong. But I was really happy with my choice, regardless of the outcome. And thank goodness it was a great outcome. And it isn't always, I realize that. But at the end of the day, one of my messages is it's your health, it's your body, and you really do need to be comfortable with your choices as you move through these things. So I always encourage people to do as much homework as you possibly can. Trust no one until you trust whoever it is you need to trust.
Absolutely. It's so important to find the right people, to find the right oncologists, and find the right surgeons, and find the right everything, to find the people that you trust. And if you don't trust them, find someone else. Absolutely.
You
totally.
can hire and fire your doctors at will until you build the exact right team. And I encourage you to do so. It's super important.
100% agreement. What do you wish people would learn from you to help them with their lives?
Oh, there's a couple key things that I know have worked for me that I would love for other people to benefit from. And one is, and it sort of piggybacks on what we just talked about, build your tribe, not just in doctors, but friends, family, pull those people in close to you that support you and love you, even if they have a difference of opinion, and get rid of those that just don't. 2 is open your eyes to adversity, because it's coming. In one way or another, we're all going to have something that gets thrown at us that isn't fun or we didn't ask for. And there's amazing gifts that we can get out of those sometimes horrible moments or experiences. 3 is, please don't apologize for who you are and how you do things, right? The way you walk through life is your choice. It may not be mine, and that is absolutely 100% okay. So no need to be defensive or apologize. And then 3 or 4, I'm on 4. Look how excited I got there. I forgot that I did 3. 4 is really to reflect. And if you made good choices at the end of the day, hold true to them. And if you didn't, hopefully all of us get to wake up tomorrow and choose again to try to change the outcome in a different way. And that's really been my mantra. The final part of that for me, which is it just hits my heart in such an important way, is to also look at language. In health especially, there's so many words that we have given such a negative connotation to, even cancer, that resonate then so poorly with us. And I would love for us to change that attitude. Instead of thinking of them so negatively, think of them in a positive way, where we can build the team, overcome the adversity, and have a great time doing it. And that's really, I know it was a little long-winded, my answer to your question, but that's really my mantra through this whole journey. And hopefully that resonates with some of your listeners.
Yeah, I love that. I love those 4 things are just things that everyone should take and memorize and keep with them throughout their lives. I really, really love that. Well, thank you so much. And we're going to have the link to your book and everybody can read it. And I look forward to reading it. I'm going to totally read this and just really, really love it. And really, best of luck on everything. And really, thank you so much. And good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm excited to hear what you think. So
yes, I will. I'll send a link out. And take care and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you so much. That was Dr. Cindy Howard. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Cindy, for joining me. That was a lot of fun and really inspiring. And I'm going to definitely read your book. Really terrific. I love hearing, my favorite stories are people who overcome adversities. Those are just my very, very favorite. Now, I had an incredible weekend. It was Fleet Week here in San Francisco, which is my favorite weekend. I love watching the air show. We have an air show over the skies of San Francisco, including the magnificent Blue Angels. I love them. Love, love, love them. And I watched the whole show Saturday. Saturday, I had a long run and went really well. I was very, very pleased with my progress. I got out 10.14 miles, 9 of which I mostly ran. The last mile I walked because I was I didn't have any more energy at all. I was just, okay, I have to walk this one. But I did really well, and it was hot. It was in the 80s, so it was very warm. My next race is not my goal race, but my next race is the Golden Gate Half in November. So it's not going to be anywhere near as warm as it was Saturday. So I figured I could run most of the 9 miles in the heat. I'll do pretty well in the half. My next really long run is going to be in 2 weeks. I can't do a long run every weekend like I should because I have to work every other weekend. So my schedule is kind of screwy. Messes with my training, but it is what it is. But okay, that was great. I did really well. My nutrition is spot on. It was great. And except for like halfway through my run, I bought an iced coffee, which was delicious, but it was at one of those. Okay, we have these food trucks at the Presidio Marching Grounds, which is this really pretty green area they used to use when the Presidio was an army base. And it's a beautiful area. They have these hipster food trucks, which just means they're very expensive. That's what that means. And the iced coffee was $10.50. $10.50 for an iced coffee. Was it good? Yeah. Was it worth $10.50? No. But I had that. So that was really good. And then I don't want to forget to say that the Scratch Wild Cherry Chews are the best things I've ever tasted. Oh my gosh, those are good. Those are really, really good. Oh my goodness, those are good. All right, I got a box of those. So those are really, really good, and those are going to be fueling my long runs from now on. Just one little package of them per run. Those are really good. I took those. I took peanut butter filled pretzels. I took some Noon, of course. Bag of Hammerhead. That's what got me going. That kept me going through the long run. And that helped out a lot. That really did it. I didn't have any cramping or anything. I did fairly well the whole time. So I'm getting it together, getting my nutrition, getting my electrolytes, getting everything together so that I feel good during the whole run. So that's pretty cool. So I hope you had great runs this weekend, and that will pretty much do it. Everything's on the website for Dr. Cindy. All the stuff we talked about on today's show is at martharunstheworld.com. Also, if you want to be a subscriber, there's a new link for the, if you want to be a subscriber through Buzzsprout, do my show through Buzzsprout, you can be a Buzzsprout subscriber for Martha Runs the World. There is a link on that on the website. So you can do that for $3 a month. It's very inexpensive and you get extra episodes. All right. And if you would, that would be awesome. And everything else is on the website, martharunstheworld.com. And if you want to email me, it's martharunstheworld@gmail.com. And that is it for today. So until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.